7 years ago, I was pretty much on this spot, previewing The Dark Knight Rises, and I'm back here in Western Supermare to review Shazam today, and surprisingly enough, it's similar conditions to last time. From 7 years ago, it's as windy as heck. Now, coming off of the heels of Endgame, it'll be interesting to see what Warner Brothers can offer up with Shazam, considering the DC cinematic universe has been kind of hit and miss since day one, but who knows, this movie may surprise me. Will Zachary Levi be able to give it the word? Until then, MJ Knight out. Okay, this one's kind of a day removed because a lot of stuff went on throughout the rest of the day, and I'm not going to get into that because IRL, we leave that at the door. But, as per usual, the 5-second rule before we go into the spoiler territory. So if you don't want it spoiled, you know what to do. Okay then. For starters, I really like Zachary Levi as the titular character, of which Billy Batson turns into just by saying the word Shazam. And Zachary really does act like a the mind of a teenager in a full adult body. He's got these very immature mannerisms and the over enthusiasm and exuberance that someone in their mid-teens would have if they had these kind of superpowers. It's like, imagine Superman as a teenager. This is basically what you've got with Shazam. The costume, from what I've seen, seems very authentic. It's a lot more bombastic in live-action form, where it does have a spandex look, but it's not like a cheap-looking thing. It's similar in regards to that of, say, Amazing Spider-Man 2's type of texture and what we've seen from Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. So there's a fair layer of texture to it that doesn't make it look cheap and nasty. Granted, that's what they had to work with the Christopher Reeve movies, because there was not so much of an emphasis on adding a lot of texture and detail to these costumes, because in all essence, the story is the main reason why it's carrying you through this. But I'm glad that small attentions to detail are being focused on, even down to the costume, so that's fine. Asher Angel, I shall just look up, who plays Billy Batson. Billy Batson as his teenage level. You really believe it? That this is a kid who was orphaned, has gone from foster family to foster family. All he's looking for is his mother. And just an answer to the question, why did she not come back for him? And what they kind of do, how to phrase this, the answer that she gives is kind of douchey, but at the same time, you sort of see the reasoning behind it is where she didn't want to leave him behind, but because she was only a teenager when she had him, she figures that someone else could give him a better life. I get what they're sort of going for, but it's just the way it's executed, you know, it's just not a lot of tactfulness. But to be fair, if the script is getting you to kind of be right in the middle with the mother, where you're understanding it, but you're not exactly in support of what she's doing, then the actress is doing her job properly. Mark Strong as Thaddeus Sivana. What is it with this guy and taking these really villainous roles? I mean, he was it Lord Blackwood in the first Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr. He played the villain, the father of the villain Red Mist in the first Kick-Ass movie, and he's back here again playing another antagonist. Like, dude, just because you're English doesn't mean you have to be a stereotype and go with the bad guy roles. I mean, you play it well, but range, variety. It is the spice of life, as it were. Don't know where that came from. But he did his role well. Jack Dylan Grazer as Freddy, who plays Billy's foster brother. You really love the enthusiasm from this guy, and it's really enjoyable towards the end of the movie when Billy is able to bestow his Shazam powers onto the rest of his family just by grabbing hold of the wizard's staff. And Billy, Freddy is just able to finally live out his fantasy as a superhero. It's like, whoa, what the hell? But it's just so cool to see, like, a superhero family. Probably the first time we've seen a superhero family on screen since the Fantastic Four. I'm sorry. The Fantastic Four. That was for you, Stan. We miss you. But the story is very lighthearted. There's a huge sense of fun with it. There are the dark elements with it, but it's not shoved into your face. It's very subtle. Because the majority of the movie spends more time on Billy adjusting to his powers and kind of misusing them just to get selfies, charging fans for selfies and what have you. And I do like the fact that he lives up to his promise at the end of the movie that as Shazam, he goes and sits with Freddy and it says, oh, I invited another superhero friend of mine, why don't you come on in? And you don't see his headshot, but in walks Superman. And I'm like, in the theater, I go, and even the score, like, you hear it very briefly. It's like, yes. It just would have been so cool if you could have just seen Henry Cavill's head in the shot. It's just like, holy crap, it's Superman. I don't know where this is coming from today. But that would be the reaction of most fans of the characters. And there is a little bit of self-promoting merchandise, whether it is of Batman plushies, Batman and Superman backpacks, but considering they already exist in this world, it's like, you know what, that's expected. And most people that are fans of superheroes, they would have that on display for purchase. So that was cool. Visually, this movie is just all out fun, particularly with all the visual effects shots, with not only Shazam's lightning powers, but just the way he's able to take flight. And it's one of those movies you're going to walk away from, and it's a sense of, it's uplifting. It's a fair amount of campiness to it, but it's the right kind of campiness where you have fun with it. There are a lot of jokes in there that work, but it's just one of those things that you can take your kid to it, where the adults are going to get these subtle wink-wink moments, and then there's going to be these silly moments where Shazam and Freddy come out with all like the sugar, junk food, and soft drinks as opposed to the beer, because he comes and goes, direct me to your finest beer, please. You're just trying to... It's so... it's so cliche, like, that's what some people think kids would actually think, like, when they're going to buy beer and what have you. Oh, God. Ugh. I went into this with actually not too many expectations, because as I mentioned in the preview, kind of given how hit and miss the DC cinematic universe is, to walk away from this and, just to walk out with a huge smile on your face, that's a good kind of superhero movie. I haven't really seen a superhero movie like this where it's just all out fun. Probably not since the first Fantastic Four movie and maybe the first Iron Man. There's a sense of, being a superhero doesn't have to be all dark and tragic. Being a superhero can be fun. And it does really teach some good moral uplifting lessons. It's like, you don't get to call a home until you know it's a home. Because a building can be just a house or an apartment, but it's the family that makes it a home. And I'm like, ooh, I like that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I can't stress that enough. The score, let me just see, the score was by Benjamin Wolfisk, or Wolfish, I don't know, probably Wolfisk. It's just a really well done movie, and the Wizard of Shazam was played by Jumon Hounsou. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this correctly. But, I really dug him as the Wizard, as somebody who is expressing the importance of why he's called Billy Forth to accept the powers of Shazam. But also underlining, look, I'm not going to take your crap, alright? You got to take this with an air of responsibility. But, yeah, if I'm not going into being as explanatory as I usually do with these spoiler reviews, it's just because I feel as though this is one of those movies that's going to speak for itself. It's not something that needs to be explained in depth to a degree where it's complicated, because it's not. This movie knows exactly what it is. It's a campy, fun superhero movie that, even if you're not a fan of Shazam, you're going to enjoy this. And I just like these very uplifting messages that, you can get what you desire to look for, and sometimes it's not what you were expecting. Because the main driving focus of this movie is Billy just wants to find his mother, and he just wants to know why. And it's only when he gets given an answer, not necessarily what he was looking for, but he gets given an answer that, he had a family, he has a family now that really wants to look out for him, and a group of brothers and sisters that are adoptive step-siblings that already openly accept him, and he knows that they're all superheroes too. So, yeah, can't really recommend this movie enough. It's just, it's not as good as Endgame, because Endgame is the endgame to end all endgames. Try saying that 3 times fast. But it comes in a very close second. It's one of those movies, it's very underrated. But if you have spare change, and you got nothing to do on a Tuesday afternoon, because that's when most of the matinee prices are in most theatres, then give this a look. It's nowhere near as long as Endgame, clocking in at 132 minutes, so that's 2 hours, 12 minutes, but like Endgame, you don't notice the time go by because you're so engrossed and invested into this story that you're not going to notice it. So, give it a look, and this is MJ Knight signing off from Real Features for Shazam.